In this segment, I will discuss the skills you need to develop to be an effective listener. Before we begin, if you have not done so already, please download the documents that go with this segment. I want to start by reading an article that appeared in the newspaper recently. The most ambitious use of technology to combat traffic congestion debuts next month along one of the nation's most clogged arteries. Drivers on Interstate 95 from New Jersey to North Carolina will have access to real-time information on traffic flows, crashes, and travel time to help them anticipate delays. Real-time information is critical to drivers, not only in terms of what's going on, but also in terms of providing alternative solutions, says James Ray of the Federal Highway Administration, which is overseeing this project. Each year, congestion costs $78 billion in delays and wasted fuel, according to a report from Texas A&M University. The new network will initially cover 1,500 miles of freeway between New Jersey and North Carolina. It could eventually be expanded to include the entire East Coast from Maine to Florida. Now, answer the following questions on the space provided in your workbooks. First, what interstate will the new network debut on? Second, what is the name of the agency that is overseeing the project? Third, how much does congestion cost each year? 4. What university is mentioned in the article? And finally, how many miles will the new network initially cover? Now, let's discuss the answers. First, the network will debut on Interstate 95. The Federal Highway Administration is overseeing the project. Congestion costs $78 billion each year. Texas A&M University is mentioned in the article. The network will cover 1,500 miles from New Jersey to North Carolina. Did you get all the answers correct? Why not? If I had told you that I was going to test you after I read the article, would you have remembered more? When you are with a customer, do they say, "I have something important to tell you, so please make sure you are listening"? No, they just talk. So you always need to be listening. When asked on surveys what customers want from salespeople, the answer usually comes down to 3 things. They want to have a salesperson that they trust, respect, and like. Customers will determine whether or not they trust you based on your response when they have an objection. The questions you ask and how you ask those questions will determine if a customer respects you. The way you can get a customer to like you is by listening. In psychology studies, they have found that if 2 people are having a conversation and one person is doing all the talking and the other person is doing all the listening, the person doing all of the talking will have a higher opinion of the listener than the listener will have of the person doing all the talking. Even though the talker did not find out any information from the other person, he will have a higher opinion of the listener than the listener will have of him. Why is this the case? Most people like people who show an interest in them and their opinions. The next time you're at a dinner party or a cookout and are having a conversation with someone, try and let them do all the talking. When that person is on their way home, they will tell their spouse how great you are. When their spouse asks them what you do for a living or how many children you have, they won't know the answer. But they will still say you're a great person. By listening, you can make people like you. If your customers like you, then you are well on your way to a sale. We have been talking about listening in this segment, not hearing. There is a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing is passive. Listening is not. Most of us were born with the ability to hear. Listening is a skill that you need to develop if you want to be successful in sales. Many of you decided to get into sales because you have the gift to gab. Someone told you that you are such a good talker, you should be a salesperson. This could not be further from the truth. In order to be successful in sales, you need to be a good listener. Most salespeople believe they should be doing the majority of the talking. The truth is that the talk-to-listen ratio is the opposite of what you have been told. You should be listening twice as much as you are talking. That is why you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Keep this ratio in mind when you are with a customer. If you find yourself doing most of the talking, stop. Chances are, if you are doing most of the talking, you have lost your customer's interest. Stop talking and start listening to get it back. Developing good listening skills starts with a mindset that the customer is the way to the sale, not an obstacle within it. We talk more about this in the consultative selling video. Listening requires interest and patience. Some customers like to open up and share information, while others need encouragement to state their needs. The use of questions is a skill that not only will help you to get customers to open up, but also goes hand in hand with listening. It is through listening that the best questions are born. You cannot ask good questions if you are not listening. When you ask generic questions or questions that could apply to anyone, you are not consultatively selling. You are also not developing any rapport, and you are showing your customer that you are not listening. As you saw in the questioning skills video, asking questions enables you to find out what is important to your customer so you can show them how they will benefit from your products and services. However, in order to ask good questions, you need to listen to what the customer is saying. In addition, to be able to match a feature to a benefit for that customer, you need to be listening for their hot buttons. I firmly believe that customers will give you all the information you need to not only sell them something today, but also to develop a long-term relationship with them, provided you listen to them and listen after you ask a question. Too often, when you start asking questions, you stop listening. Never stop listening. In addition, when you are with a customer, you should be listening not just so you can answer their question, but also to determine the question you want to ask them. The most powerful questions come when you take something the customer said and ask a question about it. Watch this role play as I demonstrate this. So let me first ask you, how familiar are you with our product line?
A little bit. I looked at some of the vehicles online.
Okay. Did you go to our website or did you go to the manufacturer's website?
I went to the manufacturers and then I put in my zip code and I ended up with my local store.
Okay, so that's how you came here.
Yes.
All right, great. So you mentioned your local store. So you live locally?
I live in White Plains.
Okay, great. So, Michael, are you interested more in a sedan or an SUV?
Interested in a sedan, definitely a sedan. That's what I'm looking for today. I'd want a sports car, but definitely a sedan.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I'd like to have the performance and handling of a sports car, especially with my commute, but, for practical reasons, I need a sedan.
Okay. I'm curious, how do you plan on using your vehicle?
Primarily, it's commuting to work, weekends, running around with the kids a little bit, and Saturday night out with my wife or friends.
Okay. How many kids do you have?
I have 2. I have a 10-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl.
Okay. Do they do a lot of activities?
They're pretty active. Boys getting into sports teams, soccer and baseball. My daughter also plays soccer, and she has dance recital, etc.
Okay.
So I'm curious, you guys baseball fans now that it's spring?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in the Bronx. I'm a Yankee fan.
Okay, yeah, same.
And he will be too.
Of course, he's going to be what the old man is, right?
Right.
All right, well, great. You mentioned to me that you're going to be using your vehicle for Saturday nights with your wife. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, just to go out dinner Saturday night. Just get a break from the kids. She has a minivan, so looking for something to kind of balance that out.
Okay, so you're not driving up to a nice restaurant in a minivan with all
Exactly.
the kids' equipment in the back.
Right.
All right, I hear you there. In terms of work, because you mentioned you'd be using your vehicle, do you work in a job that you use your vehicle for work or just back and forth?
No, it's just commuting to work back and forth.
Okay, who do you work for, by the way?
I work for Nestle.
In this role play, I asked questions based on what the customer told me. For example, when he said he would prefer a sports car, I asked about it. When he mentioned he had children, I asked about them. When he stated that he wants something to drive on Saturday nights with his wife, I asked him to elaborate. The information he provided me with when he answered my questions will help me not only find the right vehicle for him, but will also allow me to develop some rapport with the customer. However, the only way I can ask these questions is if I am listening to what he says. In all of these instances, I could have just let what he said go in one ear and out the other, and then just have gone into my sales spiel. Instead, I listened and asked questions based on what the customer said. This is consultative selling. Doing this will lead to more sales, more gross profit, and increased customer satisfaction. I would like you to watch this role play again. Watch for the things I just mentioned.
So let me first ask you, how familiar are you with our product line?
A little bit. I looked at some of the vehicles online.
Okay. Did you go to our website or did you go to the manufacturer's website?
I went to the manufacturers, and then I put in my zip code, and I ended up with my local store.
Okay, so that's how you came here.
Yes.
All right, great. So you mentioned your local store, so you live locally?
I live in White Plains.
Okay, great. So, Michael, are you interested more in a sedan or an SUV?
Interested in a sedan, definitely a sedan. That's what I'm looking for today. I'd want a sports car, but definitely a sedan.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I'd like to have the performance and handling of a sports car, especially with my commute, but, for practical reasons, I need a sedan.
Okay. I'm curious, how do you plan on using your vehicle?
Primarily, it's commuting to work, weekends, running around with the kids a little bit, and Saturday night out with my wife or friends.
Okay, how many kids do you have?
I have two. I have a 10-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl.
Okay, do they do a lot of activities?
They're pretty active. Boys getting into sports teams, soccer and baseball. My daughter also plays soccer, and she has dance recital, etc.
Okay. So I'm curious, you guys baseball fans now that it's spring?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up in the Bronx. I'm a Yankee fan.
Okay, yeah, same.
And he will be too.
Of course, he's going to be what the old man is, right?
Right.
All right, well, great. You mentioned to me that you're going to be using your vehicle for Saturday nights with your wife. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, just to go out dinner Saturday night. Just get a break from the kids. She has a minivan, so looking for something to kind of balance that out.
Okay, so you're not driving up to a nice restaurant in a minivan with all
Exactly.
the kids' equipment in the back.
Right.
All right, I hear you there. In terms of work, because you mentioned you'd be using your vehicle, do you work in a job that you use your vehicle for work or just back and forth?
No, it's just commuting to work back and forth.
Okay, who do you work for, by the way?
I work for Nestle.
As you can see, in order to ask great questions, you need to be listening. A great question is one that flows naturally from something that was just said. The next time you're with a customer, listen in order to ask questions, not just to answer them. As I mentioned earlier, listening is a skill that you need to develop. Listening does not happen by default. You must work at it, and if you are in sales, you are in the listening business. Because you need certain skills and tools to become an effective listener, we are going to refer to this process as active listening. Active listening consists of several techniques that you need to master. These techniques are the proper use of body language when listening, being able to take great notes, the ability to minimize interruptions and distractions, eliminating bad listening habits, listening for those keywords, listening for what is not being said, and having a positive attitude. I will discuss each one of these techniques so you can improve your listening skills. When you are listening to another person, it's important that you show that person that you are listening. You can do this through the use of body language. First, make sure your arms are not crossed. You want to convey a sense of openness to what they are saying. Therefore, your arms should be down to the side if you are standing. If you are sitting, they can either be down to your side or on the desk. However, make sure you are not moving them. Don't twiddle your thumbs. Moving your arms can be a distraction for the speaker, and it gives the impression that you are not listening. As the other person is speaking, you should be periodically nodding your head. Not like a bobblehead doll, just nod slowly up and down so the speaker knows you are listening. You should also be using eye contact to show that you are listening. First, do not look away from the speaker. If you are not looking at the person talking, they will presume you are not listening. However, do not stare at them either. Simply look at their eyes and then look down at their mouth. This slight movement from looking at their eyes to their mouth will let them know that you are looking at them and therefore listening. But you will not be staring. Finally, if you are taking notes, do not bury your head down and write. Look up at the speaker periodically as you take your notes. Note-taking seems to have gone the way of the VCR. Yet it is a very important tool to use when you are listening to a customer. First, it allows you to gather information without relying solely on your memory. You will never be able to remember everything that the customer has said. Therefore, you should take notes so that you will not forget the conversation. Let the customer know that you'll be taking notes. Actually, you should ask the customer for permission to take notes. You should also let the customer know that it is a benefit to them if you take notes. This can be as easy as saying, "Mr. Jones, I would like to take some notes so I can better assist you in finding the vehicle that most suits your needs. Is that okay?" When you take notes, use a notepad. Do not use a scrap of paper or a business card. Write down the key words and phrases the customer says. Do not try and write down everything they say. Besides helping you gather information, taking notes also shows the customer that you are listening. In order to write down what a speaker says, you must be listening to what they say. So take notes, and not only will it help you assist your customers, it will also show them that you care about what they have to say. In order to effectively listen, you have to eliminate anything that will distract you, including interruptions. Now, you might wonder how you can eliminate interruptions. Well, the best way to do this is to move to